it still affects you. And sometimes when I stop and look and see what's going on and see our volunteers loving and praying, and it makes me emotional too, still to this day after 8 years. 8 years ago, we were feeding 17 people. Today, we probably did about 800. So far, God's continued to provide.
You're listening to Find the Good News, episode 56, The Reluctant Hug, a road trip edition featuring Kelli Stawecki. Find the Good News is produced by Parker Brand Creative Services, a branding agency that thinks sideways, pushes forward, and gets your brand up. See what else we do at parkerbrandup.com. Thank you so much for making time to listen to this road trip edition of Find the Good News with Kelli Stawecki. The Water's Edge Food Pantry is one of the shining jewels of compassion in Southwest Louisiana, and I'm honored to finally be able to share their story through Find the Good News. I feel strongly that these road trip videos bring a richness to the podcast listening experience. You can find them on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel. Just visit findthegood.news for the links to those pages. Next week, I get to share my visit with Richard Harrell and his son Jack. It's a great conversation about a father's love for his son and how that love returns. As you may know, Jack is a wonderful young piano player, and he gives us a special musical treat in this episode. I want to remind you that Find the Good News has live episodes that you can participate in. By the time you listen to this, we'll have 2 live episodes in our listening queue. The live show provides a great opportunity to visit with some new amazing folks and bring back past good newsy guests as co-hosts on the show. You can listen live at Mixlr.com. That's Mixlr.com. Get the app and join the live chat during the live shows. We post all live shows on all of our social media pages, so check that out. I've really enjoyed producing Find the Good News this past year. My team and I have so many wonderful ideas on how we can grow the Good News signal, but we need a little bit of help from you. If you found the Good News valuable at all, consider supporting the show as a patron at patreon.com/findthegoodnews. There are no tiers, just levels. Each Early Risers Club patron gets access to a private podcast with the team behind Find the Good News called The B-Sides. It's a sneak peek into how the show is made and the minds that make it happen. This is a great episode, so let's get to it. Shake off any judgments or residual hang-ups from the day. Roll your shoulders, wiggle your toes, breathe in, and breathe out. Close your eyes for just a second. Let the cracks in your heart begin to show. Now, press play on a little good news. It's not easy for me to avert my gaze when I see someone in need, especially the homeless or food impoverished. If you've listened to this show, then you know that images of the hungry affected me deeply when I was a little boy, and those photos haunt the hallways of my mind every single day. Still, being haunted by something doesn't always motivate one to take action. I won't lie to you and say that I've always helped or given, no matter how heavy my heart may have felt. Perhaps this is why I am humbled when I meet people who have said yes when the call to serve is placed on their heart, who go do the work even if circumstances aren't favorable for them to do so. This is what I saw with my own eyes when I visited with Kelli Stawecki at the Water's Edge Food Pantry in Lake Charles, Louisiana for this road trip edition of Find the Good News. Like many, I had heard about the Water's Edge Food Pantry, understanding that they were serving the needs of the food impoverished and homeless in Southwest Louisiana. But what I didn't grasp was the swelling number of homeless and impoverished in our area. While headlines boast an economic boom, there are families and individuals that cannot provide the basic needs for their children or for themselves. While the needs increase and resources decrease, Kelli Stawecki and the volunteers at Water's Edge Food Pantry continue to arrive and serve food and supplies to those in need. But their hearts are even bigger than that. By allowing me to come and film, Kelli invited me in the presence of what I can only call the loving heart of God, burning hot with compassion. Many times throughout the day, I simply stood stunned by the waves of mercy I witnessed and the eyes of gratitude that looked back from those being served. I felt the great blanket of equanimity in this space, and on the faces of each servant, I saw smiles, true joy. Kelli Stawecki and the volunteers at Water's Edge may be offering full bellies for those that enter the doors of their converted sanctuary. But if the love that expanded in my heart was any indication, then I believe those being served leave filled with something that has an immeasurable value. They learn that they are seen and loved, and that their existence matters. They are reminded that humanity is still good, no matter how hard the world may seem. This is the good news I have been seeking, and I have found it yet again in Kelli Stawecki and the good people at Water's Edge.
Wake up, it's morning. You're dreaming up a story. I can hear the way it's going, 'cause you're laughing in your sleep, on the path to your deliverance, in a holy roll of light pouring through your window.
Old news, bad news, fake news. Sometimes you want to hit the road and get away from it all. With Find the Good News road trips, I get behind the wheel and seek out good people doing good works. I travel the highways, byways, and back roads to seek out artists, educators, civic and spiritual leaders, musicians, business owners, students, volunteers, and everyday citizens who are using their creativity, resources, and talents to bring hope and happiness to the places and spaces that hold meaning for them. In each episode, I journey into the hearts and minds of my extraordinary guests. We have down-to-earth conversations about relatable things going on in their lives and in their communities. I uncover the critical life experiences that shaped them, the environments that nurtured them, and the fundamental beliefs that have anchored them to a path of goodness. There's a lot of news on the open road. My name is Oran Parker, and you're invited to take this road trip with me to find the good.
I love you just as well.
So this is the third road trip episode I've got to do. And believe it or not, I had made a list when I first started the show, and you were on that list.
Cool.
And so I reached out and I was asking some folks if they knew who you were, or what was the best way to get in touch with you. And it just didn't work out. I never could connect. And then eventually we connected on Facebook because I interviewed Tony.
Right.
So anyway, I think the road trips episodes are really special because I get to go put my eyes on something, and instead of just getting to hear the story, I get to kind of be a part of the story and get to see it firsthand. And I got to tell you, today, I went through a whole range of emotions today. It's a little hard. I don't know how you guys do it, to be honest with you, because I was just filming, and there were a couple of times where I just kind of had to hold it back,
Right.
Yeah. How do y'all do that?
I think it does build with time.
Yeah.
It never stops hurting or grabbing your emotions, but I think when you do this day in and day out, God's grace almost gives you more strength to handle it, because it's something we see every single day. So it still affects you, and sometimes when I stop and look and see what's going on and see our volunteers loving and praying, and it makes me emotional too, still to this day after 8 years. So,
is that how long it's been? 8
yes,
years?
Sir.
Surely it didn't look like this 8 years ago.
No, it did not.
How far has it come in 8 years? It's the food pantry.
8 years ago, we were feeding 17 people. Today, we probably did about 800. So
really?
Big difference.
Wow. Is that how many people came through here today?
We feed per person, so it depends on how many you have in your family. So there may be one person representing 8 people or 6 people or 4 people or whatever. So, whereas a lot of food banks do like standard boxes. So if you come in and you're one person, you get one box. If you come in with 12 people in your family, you get the same box. What we do is feed per person. So we've always said we may have to go to a standard size box because it's costly, and so far God's continued to provide. So.
Well, yeah, today, I watched everybody who volunteered. Which first of all, it always touches me when I see volunteers show up for anything, but to see people come and do this, I don't know, it's just out of just love, right?
It is.
Just straight up
it
love.
Is straight up love.
And then just watching them make the bags up specifically depending on the needs of the person or the family.
Correct.
I don't know. It was just everyone was very busy, but you could see that it was very important that
Correct.
that they do that. Yeah. So can you tell me kind of how this started? Like where this begins for you and Water's Edge, and just what's the origin of?
I'm a teacher by trade, and I have lupus, and
Really?
I was on a sabbatical for some health issues I was having, and during that year I started getting better, but wasn't able to go back to work yet.
Okay.
And just started getting busy up here, and it was always a vision of Pastor Tony to have a food pantry, and
So you were already going to church?
yes, I was already going to church here, and we just, people would come in needing food, and I'd run to the store and get a few things, and then we started asking for donations, and then we took our sprinkler closet and made that a little closet and put a little shelf, and then now it's wall-to-wall shelves, and it just kept growing. And when I got well, I decided that I felt like God was calling me to stay here and do this full time, and that's what I did.
Well, I mean, it's absolutely blossomed, obviously, right? I mean, I guess as I was filming today and just watching y'all work, I was trying to stay out of the way, to be honest with you, because there was so much activity going on. But we were inside, so that's your sanctuary, right?
Correct.
Where that takes place. There's something to me, and it just as I was filming today, I thought, how beautiful is this? There's so many churches that I've been in and seen the sanctuary, and the pews are kind of bolted to the floor, right?
Right.
And in y'all's situation, I loved that. I was like, they just moved the chairs out of the way and repurposed this sanctuary as a place of service for.
I think that's so cool.
Yeah. I loved that. I just kept thinking about that the whole time, how things would just get moved. And I thought, on Sunday or however many times you'll have a service a week, this is going to be set up for worship.
Correct.
And here it is, it becomes a service as well. And I don't know, it just got me thinking about that's how we ought to be too as people, right? I mean,
Correct.
We can worship and adore, but we should also have the capacity to move our chairs around and serve.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, that sanctuary becomes a homeless shelter in the winter when it's cold.
Yeah, y'all did that.
We pick up all the chairs, put air mattresses out, and I believe that our buildings are meant to be used and glorify God through those by service of others, and that's what we do here. And I think that's so cool. You can't bring donuts or coffee or, none of those rules. It's just a building.
Yeah.
And we make use out of it.
Yeah, what are you doing with it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So the logistics of the whole thing, I guess I don't know anything about it. Where does the food come from? Where are the resources coming from? Because, I mean, you fed a lot of people came in and got groceries today.
Right. It's
Produce.
the coolest thing. And most people don't believe me when I say this, but this is absolutely 100% true. We do have a budget. We spend about $700 a week
Okay.
that the church provides.
Okay.
But all the rest of it's donations. We get no government help, no second harvest, nothing. It's just people
Donations.
dropping off food.
Really?
Correct.
Is it just people, not just church members?
Not just
either,
church
right?
members. Like the produce and stuff you saw today, that comes from Friendships, Port Mercy.
Okay.
They donate, they get extras, and so they bring us stuff every time we open.
And that's every week?
Every other Thursday.
Okay, so that's right.
And then our church members donate, stuff on Sundays, and then just team other people throughout the community.
Yeah.
They'll find cereal on sale for 50 cents a box, and so I bought you 20 cases, or just things like that. So it's really a cool thing.
So it's important that people are aware of your need and how you're helping people, because when you're shopping and it's important that that's in your mind, right? That, I'm shopping for me and my family, but if there's an opportunity for me to give. So often I think, and I don't want to belittle these things, because, I mean, tithing is important to a lot of people, but so often we can get in the routine of a tithing system where we just put it in the coffers, but that extra mercy, I guess.
So blessed.
Yeah.
It's so blessed.
Something I noticed today, and I just made a mental note of it, was how many people that were volunteering here knew the names of the people that they were serving.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and it made me want to ask you how many people, I guess, do you serve on the regular? Are there people that you go, hey, they depend on this food pantry? Like, this is important.
I absolutely believe there's people who depend on it. In the past, like when we've closed for a few weeks, for vacation or something, it's always been so hard to catch back up. And the need is so strong, so this year we have stayed open the whole time. And to meet those needs, and it's like the stories we hear, we have a veteran that we've been serving since the day we opened. He chooses between food and medicine. And so we gladly provide the food so he can purchase his meds. And just numerous stories like that. Kids, grandparents raising their grandchildren on a fixed income, or single moms, or there's just tons of reasons. And I think if we weren't here, their stories would go a lot different. So we continuously serve the same people over and over, and they keep coming back for those reasons. And it's even when they get back on their feet, some of them say, I didn't need food this week, but I just want to come hang out, or I just want to help serve, or because it's not just really the food, it's about the love that they receive here.
Yeah.
And these volunteers are not all from the water's edge. They're from different churches.
Really?
Yes. It's so
I
cool.
didn't realize that.
Yes. We've got a lot of our homeless. Today we've had 4 homeless here serving. You didn't even
really?
know that.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they just come to serve.
Really? Are these people that y'all serve through your homeless ministry?
Yes, through our homeless ministry. And they were here making bags and carrying out groceries. And
I did not know that.
yes, I meant to introduce you. Sorry about that.
No,
Oran. I
no.
will. Some of them are still here. So
That's
I will
okay.
introduce you.
I think that actually is more beautiful.
It is.
Because for me, it just, anytime an assumption I have is revealed, I take note of it. And that's an assumption that I would have, is that, all these people here, they go to church here. They're involved in just this ministry, and everything's all put together. But the reality is there's people that don't have everything, and they're here serving too.
We have several here that started here by doing community service hours.
Oh, really?
And have finished and still come.
Really?
Yeah, and serve. So
Because it just
feels right.
It's not just community service.
That's
yeah.
right.
Something happens when you serve people.
Don't.
I just have it's hard to. No.
You're making me
I'm gonna get
stop.
you crying. I'll probably cry 10 times as we talk. I've done it several times today, because I guess working or serving people, and you see how blessed you are.
You do.
You really do. And honestly, for me, what I take for granted.
What you take for granted.
And I want to see that. I don't want to be apathetic. I really don't. I want to feel those things, because I think with that, if you stop feeling those things, it doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't open your heart. It just lets your heart either stay stagnant or closed. And I don't want to do that. Have you seen that happen here in doing this in those 8 years, that it's been just hearts change?
Oh my gosh. In my heart.
Really?
I mean,
how have you changed?
Like my very beginning, how this started was I was very behind the scenes person, kind of an introvert, didn't want to be involved, but wanted to be part of.
Right.
And our writers were doing a giveaway to the homeless, and they invited me to go, and I was like, can't do it. They're like, no, really come. And I did. And there was a lady named Miss Sheila, and I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. Please don't apologize.
And I tried to give her some money, and she said, I don't want your money. I want you to hug me.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I could do it.
Hug her?
Because I'm a germphobe. And I'm very sensitive stomach. And she was filthy. And people that I turned my head away from when I stopped at the stop sign.
Mm-hmm.
But I did.
Yeah.
And in that moment, God really changed my heart. It was me who was broken, not Sheila.
Mm.
And that's where it started.
That's when you knew.
That's when I knew. And he used that to change my heart and give me different eyes. And I've never looked at them the same, any homeless the same again. And it was truly the snap of a fingers for me. And I've let him use me to serve him.
Isn't it something how that works? Because I don't know. I tend to think visually, and I think about the summer. We planted these sunflower seeds and in all these different pots, and we put them in the ground, and we dug these holes, and we had these ideas that we were going to have this beautiful arrangement of sunflowers that were all going to bloom. All the seeds were going to crack open and get the right amount of light and water, and they were all going to just be this perfect, beautiful little bouquet of yellow around our bushes in front of our house. And only 2 of them actually bloomed, and then after they bloomed, a rabbit came and ate them up, so they didn't even make it. But I guess my point is, how many of us have that little seed, right? And it gets planted in each one of us.
It really does.
It just, on that day, you got the right water and the right moment and the right light, and it cracked open and it changed everything, and it's turned into all this.
It has.
You know, and that isn't always what happens, but that's just the way it goes. I had a story. I think I've shared it on the podcast, and I don't share it as a pat on the back. I just share it because it's similar. You know, we were in New Orleans a couple of years back, and I had got up early to go take a walk, and I prefer New Orleans in the daytime. And I went and got coffee, and it was cold, and I was walking back to where we were staying, and I saw a man, which, I mean, you go to New Orleans, there's no shortage of homeless people. But it was really cold. I do remember that, and I had that moment where I saw the man, and he was laying on the concrete, and there was really nobody out. And I walked to the middle of the road to cross the street to go back where I was at, and I happened to be wearing a ring that had a compass on it, like a metal compass image. And I looked down at my hand, and I looked at that ring, and I just remember hearing, like, in my heart, like, which direction are you going to go, man? Like, what are you doing? And so I think I felt like I stood there in the middle of the street forever, which it wasn't but a moment, but I went back and I just sat down next to that man, and he woke up, and I asked him if he wanted my coffee, and he kind of was apprehensive, you know. We talked for a minute, and sitting there on the ground with him, I'll just spare you all the details you can imagine.
Right.
He said something that really just stuck, and he said, "Are you even real?" And he really meant that. And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Nobody's talked to me. I haven't had anybody talk to me." He said, "And you're sitting on the ground talking to me." And he said, "That's just sometimes all that matters, you know." And I realize that the mercy just sometimes is just paying attention to people.
It really is.
You know, and you saying that, she didn't want your money. She wanted your love and just attention, just to feel. What I got from him was he wanted to feel like his existence was worth having, that he was also loved just like anybody else. He was a human being. He deserved just to be acknowledged. You know, but y'all take it so much further. You've turned this into so much more than just acknowledging people, which I know that's a part of it because I saw you today.
Right.
You know, talking to people and praying with people, and I didn't eavesdrop, but I mean, it was easy to observe that there was pain and hardship there, and you were sitting with the people.
Right.
And that's a part of this. You're not just providing food.
Yeah, I feel like it's more like the Water's Edge therapy on Thursdays, 11 to 2. Come on. And it's so good for the people who are doing it as well as the people who are receiving it. That it's changed their life, the volunteer's life, as much as it has the people who are getting something.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
Today, everyone not everyone, but the different people that I did get to talk to, the volunteers, said that it just doesn't end for you on Thursdays, though, when the food pantry ends.
Yeah.
Right? So what does a Thursday look like for you? Because it goes way, way beyond just this food pantry.
It's about 12 hours a day. We, different churches, businesses, restaurants, families cook for us. And they provide me 75 to 125 meals already boxed up and ready to go. And we will fill the Durango up and with that and Gatorade and off, and we will hit the streets and feed the homeless.
You do that every week?
Every Thursday.
Every Thursday. And where do you know where to go?
Yes,
is there places?
It's just through time we've learned, there are no homeless camps per se. Like people say we have, homeless camps. We don't. I mean, if there are any, I've
heard people say that, but I've never.
There's none. I mean, I think the most we have is like 4 tents at one place, but we just know. I mean, we've done it every Thursday for 8 years, so they know to be visible if they're not at their tent, where I can find them, and that's what we do.
Okay, so I have heard that the sort of legends or hearsay that there's big homeless camps, or like I've heard people say there's like a whole tent city somewhere.
Not.
So there's not, and you would know.
I would know.
Yeah.
I would absolutely know.
So someone who's homeless in our area, what are their options? Where do they go? I mean, where do they stay? What are people doing to survive?
It's kind of crazy. But for one thing, it's illegal to be homeless. It's still in the books. Vagrancy is against the law. So as far as me, if you came in to me and you were homeless and I gave you a tent and you said, where could I put it? I'm not allowed to tell you that because
I see.
It's illegal.
Yeah, you're aiding and abetting.
That's right.
Okay.
So, but just about every set of woods you see in Lake Charles, there's a homeless person living in them.
Okay.
The majority of ours are from where the church is on 14 all the way down to past 90.
Okay.
I mean, that's the brunt of ours, but we have them south side of town. We have them at the Civic Center.
Yeah.
But our biggest group, probably 80-ish to more, are down Highway 14.
Well, is that because Highway 14 is an artery with resources on it? I mean, is that kind of why? What do you have any input as to why that would be that way?
I think I don't really know.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's part of it's economical stuff, and then of course Abraham's 10 is located off Fruget on 90, so and there's a lot more bus stops on 90 than there are south of town, so if they're having to use it for transportation, maybe those kind of things, but not as far as actually why I don't.
Yeah. I was just wondering, I mean, because I do notice that when I travel 14, that I see more people that I know, or you can tell by what they have with them that
Correct.
they have nowhere to stay.
Right.
Most of their belongings are on their bike or their back.
Salvation Army is off of 14, but many of them can't stay there. You have to have IDs and all kind of specific rules, so a lot of them don't qualify for that. And then there's probably less people who notice, maybe, on down 14 in the woods.
Yeah, maybe so. So these restaurants and stores and individuals that are providing these 100 meals, is it changed from week to week?
Oh, yes.
And how did that go about? I mean, did they just hear about you doing this?
Yeah, basically, they just hear about it, but like some of them have been providing food for the last 8 years. So like where they were giving us 20 meals, we were feeding 20 homeless. They're now providing 100, and they've grown with us. So it's been, thank you. it's been incredible to keep them hanging around, because most of them feel like they're led to do it too, so they just do.
Are these? I mean, I don't know how far I can get into asking you who these restaurants are. I mean, are they?
I mean, really, we've had so many restaurants.
Really?
But one of my main ones, which he's probably gonna be mad at me for saying, is Pronius Deli.
Really?
Mr. Brian. He doesn't want to take any glory for it, you know,
I
but
understand.
he has cooked for me for years. And if we shelter here, he cooks for shelter. I mean, they're amazing people. But we've had Mellow Mushroom, Elliot Bushnell with the catering company. I mean,
So people step forward.
Oh,
there.
yes.
And it sounds like it's people that they believe in what you're doing.
correct.
So as far as what there is for somebody who finds himself in that situation, I mean, there's Water's Edge.
Correct.
But what else is there?
Not much.
Not much. And I've heard that over and over again. We don't have that in our community right now.
I mean, we have other churches and some groups, you know, that help some, but there's just nothing here. I mean, we don't have shelters. We just don't. I mean, we have no family shelter. So if you come in, a mom and dad and kids who've been evicted, I have no place to put you as a group, you know.
Right.
Our shelter that does take women, and the kids have to be a certain age and down, young kids. So if you've got a 12-year-old, you can't go there. You know, there's just really nothing
Yeah.
here.
I mean, it's. I live in Sulphur, and you know, there's a homeless community there too. And I say community loosely. I mean, it's not like they all live together.
Right.
But I guess that's the term.
Right.
The homeless community. But you do see, and I wonder about that. You know, and there is like the biker church in Sulphur. You know,
Right.
they try to help, and they do help. And you know, I guess they kind of like you know where to go to provide resources and what kind of
Correct.
resources are needed.
And we provide, you know, tents, sleeping bags,
Okay.
toiletries, socks.
So where does that come from?
Donations.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing. I want to show you the homeless closet before you leave.
Yeah, I want to see
It's
that.
really
Okay.
legit. We have T-shirts. I mean, you name it, you'll see Band-Aids, eyeglasses. I mean, you name it, we have it in that closet.
Yeah.
So they know they can come here and get that from us. And we do. We back sacks. I mean, you name it, it's in there. But it's not a home.
Right. You still have to go out and
Right.
make it outside of the walls. So the people that came in today, I mean, I kind of assumed that they were individuals, you know, and families. And like you said, they were maybe an individual coming to buy for a family, or not buy, but receive for a family. Do you ever have any people from the homeless community come?
Yeah, there was a bunch of homeless that came
Oh,
in
okay.
today. You just didn't notice.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't know.
So we do like what we call a homeless bag, a non-cook bag.
Okay.
And it's going to have heater meals, kind of like MREs, but way better. I mean,
Yeah.
the homeless tell us they taste way better. I'll
They
show you
actually
one.
showed me
Yes.
that little closet.
Yes.
That's right.
So we'll make a non-cook bag, and they can come get that every week. They don't have to wait every other Thursday.
Okay.
And so we provide them with snacks and, you know, things that they don't have to cook.
Sure. Dry goods. Yeah.
Things like that.
And so they can come anytime. Come in
Yes.
on a certain day.
Really any time. We don't turn them away for food ever.
And you receive donations for that too, or are those items, since they're specific, that you have to buy?
We received those through donations.
Really?
I was going to purchase the heater meals because the homeless loved them, and they're just really convenient because it comes with a drink, a protein, a main meal, and a snack. But they were like $12 a piece, so
Yeah.
I can't remember, some kind of National Guard or something has donated their leftovers to us twice. I mean, probably 30 cases at a time, and we've stretched them to make them work, so.
Yeah. Water's Edge, you know, has this reputation for serving people.
Oh, good.
I mean, that's all I hear. I mean, I'll tell you, like, so many people who have come on this podcast, you know, when you find out where they're going to church, it's a lot of times it's Water's Edge.
Water's Edge.
Yeah, and it just seems to be an attitude of service. Do you feel that?
Oh, absolutely.
Overall, I mean, do you feel like that's like the overarching stream, or is
That's
it just love in general?
It is service, but our pastor is amazing, and it's always been his heart. That's why he started this, and he instilled that to us in the very beginning, since we started the church. I mean, we were doing clothes giveaways. I mean, you name it, we've been serving the city. He wanted us to love God, love people, and serve the city, and that's what we've done.
Yeah.
And we just keep adding to it, and he just keeps supporting that, you know?
Yeah.
He's cool. Oh, I'm glad.
Well, I mean, he's saying, hey, these good traits have risen in the body of this church. We should celebrate them and let them grow, right?
That's right.
So you said that about supporting the city. Do y'all work with the city in any
Absolutely.
capacity? Okay. Like, what kind of things have y'all worked?
Well, we teamed up with them to be the emergency shelter. So they tell us when, okay, the temperature is going to be 35 degrees for 4 hours or longer, I need you to open. And we open. They provide us, the sheriff department provides us with security. The city provides us, help us with transportation to getting them here.
Okay.
If we need anything, you know, they're here.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And
Yeah,
then
that's great.
we have sat in on some meetings with Nick Hunter where changes, you know, trying to come with getting some services started.
Yeah.
And we're working on some things there to be revealed soon.
Yeah,
So
right.
we're excited about all that.
Yeah.
And just lots of good ththings happening.
And you feel like the current administration is very supportive there?
Very supportive.
Well, I think that's good because, I mean, I don't do what you guys do, but just being here today and just using my eyes, okay?
Right.
I mean, in day-to-day life, I can see things have definitely changed. And it seems like we have a more obvious number of homeless people in our
Absolutely.
areas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if that's come because of the economy's changing. We have more people in the area. I don't know what it is, but
There's a lot of mixed things, but one of the big things is a lot of people come here for work, and the work's not attainable, so they're stuck here. People think there's so much work, so we have a lot of prisoner release programs throughout the state, even out of state, who get one ticket when they get out, and where do you want to go? Lake
Somewhere where
Charles, because there's work, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's weird. I know that's an interesting topic because I think about that all the time. You know, we have a branding business, and a lot of times people go, oh, you know, the economic boom is the term, you know, and I said, well, it doesn't affect everybody the same way. And it's not like the Old West where it's like, hey, there's work in this town, and you go to the town and it's like, hey, I need 10 guys who can, you know, bale hay. Let's,
right.
You know, and then here's what you get for the day. It's not like that. I mean, some people, to just get the job, need resources to go to work. Sometimes we say, hey, you know, why don't you get a job? Or why don't you do this? Or why don't you do that? And to even do those things, you have to have resources.
That's right.
You know, you have to have transportation. You have to have
Clean clothes
and ID. You've got, you know, there's things
So
you need, an
much to
address, a place, a way for people to get in touch with you. I mean, and these days that's a cell phone. I mean, and not everybody has a cell phone. So, you know, when you're in survival mode, some of those basic things that we all take for granted
just
aren't there.
it's not as simple as people think.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of my huge pet peeves is when people say, just get a job. It's
Yeah.
like, just not that easy.
Right.
And believe it or not, a lot of our homeless do work.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about making $8 an hour, it's not enough to pay $1,100 a month rent.
Right.
You know?
That's absolutely true. I mean, I know this, you know, I've told some people that even about, like my daughter, you know, when she was trying to get out and get on her feet, you know, and working minimum wage jobs and doing that kind of thing that a lot of young people have to do, there's no real runway for her to make a lot of money really quickly. So you're going, hey, you want to get out on your own? You want to do this? It's going to take resources. When you start looking what rent is or a lease on something, it's going up and up and up, and you're like, well, then they really can't. You do the math, and the young person can't do that. So if they don't have a place to stay. Let's say, I mean, in some people's situation, you have a family that can support you, or maybe a room that, you can live with your parents or whatever it may be, but there's a lot of people that do not have that. The family's unstable, or the person that they are depending on can't take care of themselves even.
That's right.
What are they supposed to do? And I'm not trying to say that, do nothing. I'm just saying there are circumstances where a person can get themselves in a crevasse that they just cannot.
And with the rent too, one of the big things that happen here is like we, you're renting a house for $500-$600 a month, and now all of a sudden rent is crazy high.
Sure.
And the landlord sees, no fault to him, it's a business deal. He can.
It's his place.
He can double that.
Right.
So you either have to pay double or you have to get out. And we received a lot of our families that way for that very instant. And it's been rough.
I'll tell you, I definitely don't want to tell this and make it sound like by any stretch that it's close, but it's just a little taste. For me, was after Hurricane Rita. I had just gotten a divorce, and so my money was very thin, and I was renting a little house, and it was just in that I just lucked out. Had enough rooms in it for me and my kids, and I was making just enough money to pay for it, and just barely getting by, paying child support and the things I had to do. Right. So it was like, okay, I can do this, but it's like if anything goes awry, it's over. I won't be able to do it. The hurricane came. Luckily, the house was still standing and it was livable, so I came back home. I moved back in and started cleaning it back up. Week 1 after I get back, the landlord shows up and said, y'all got to get out. I was like, what? Well, you got to get out because there's mold. Well, there wasn't, but it was like an insurance scam, and they were just going to make the money off of this little place. They didn't want to rent it anymore. And I said, but I just got it cleaned, and and I was really, I could feel myself getting angry because honestly, I was like, what am I going to do? And then at that time, there was nowhere to rent.
There's nowhere.
There was nothing. And so I looked and I looked and I looked, and I ended up staying in a tent for a little while. And not very long, but just a little bit. And I was panicky. Like, what am I going to do? And luckily I found a place, but it had no air condition, and it was just something.
Right.
And it made do for 6 months, but it was a place that it was double what it was before.
Right.
And so I was paying what I couldn't afford, and then that was the beginning of like a time where I couldn't even buy groceries. And I was going to the Angel Food at the church in Sulphur to get food, and I remember that. It didn't last long, but it was not. There's so many elements to that for people that it's so easy to think that it's your fault or it's somebody else's fault. But I as somebody who just experienced, like I said, just that little taste of that, you have to get over your pride. You have to get over yourself, and you have to say, well, this is where I'm at. There's so many things that it does to you psychologically, emotionally, on top of trying to do right by your family.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough, and I go, when I hear people say that, just simple things like that, get a job, or, well, why don't they do this a month to do that? And I go, you don't even know the combination of things that could have happened to cause this.
That's right. And even, one of the things that with the homeless that they lose the most when they become homeless is family and community. Those are the two biggest things they lose.
Yeah.
And it becomes a very lonely world out there.
Sure. So
when we start replacing those things, we become the family. We become the community. A lot of, we'll have 30, 40, 50 at church here on Sundays. Everybody knows them. They know to come get donuts and coffee. It's a community. We're part of that community. That's when the real change, that's when you begin to see the real change. And even when they fall down again and you're there to support them, because falling down means it's over for them, to most of them. So, if we keep showing up, and they're like, they really do care. So that's when you start seeing the change. And So we are 100% about being family and community, and whatever that takes, we're willing to do.
I think, if you don't mind, I mean, just for me to bring it into the spiritual arena just for a minute, I feel like it's important to bring it up because that's one of the things about Christianity that I've always found amazing. Just that component right there, to actually have such an integral part of the call or the mission to be to serve the other and to see the other as yourself and to do for others as if they are Christ, right? I mean, to actually do unto them.
Yes.
And that is such, it's so important. And it's like, when I was a child, and, you know, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but I never received that message in the church I was attending when I was a child. I mean, I did receive good messages, but it was much more important that I believed something and that everybody knew I believed it versus doing something. There wasn't as much doing as there was believing. And I'm not, again, I don't want to talk bad in that regard because everybody starts somewhere. But that specific call to serve others, and it made me feel like, and I had this thought today when I was filming y'all. I was like, everything else is the temples we build, which I love those things. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I love stained glass. I love beautiful temples. I love candles and incense, and I love form. I do. I think it's beautiful, and it helps me get into a space where I can feel my heart, a sacred space. But if that's all I've got, it's empty without what you guys are doing. That's what I kept thinking today. I was just looking at y'all, and I was like, all that other stuff is just salt. It could just be washed away into the sea if I can't take an action and serve my human brothers and sisters. And maybe it's through food, or maybe it's through comfort, or maybe it's just through listening. Whatever that is, it has to be that element, or to me, this is a bold statement, it's a dead faith.
It is.
It's just dead for me.
And Tony, Pastor Tony is the one who, I mean, he's taught us that. I wasn't that person before that day or before coming to church here and learning that. And it's definitely grown. I'm not the same person I was 2 years ago even. But I don't think you can go back once you start serving others and experience that kind of love. I don't think you can go back. And if you do, I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't know if I could ever unsee once you've seen that.
I don't think you can.
Yeah, I think that's that thing, that cracking open, that seed, and once it gets out, it's kind of out.
It's there.
Well, it's out and it germinates, right? I mean, look, you've got all these
amazing people.
I know. I was thinking that today. I was trying to imagine what you've explained it to me, but I was trying to imagine what was this like at the beginning to see all these people just knowing what to do today.
I don't even know how we know. They just know. Yeah. They're amazing. And you know, when we shelter, it's like, when we shelter, everybody's just amazing. I don't know why we're so blessed with these volunteers. They'll say, this is a great idea. Do you mind? And I'm like, no, that's perfect. You know, it's like they think of the things to do and run it, and they put so much heart behind it. And I sit in amazement every week. I'm just like, is this really happening? How did this...
You know what else is interesting? And I want to bring this up because I think so often I'm guilty of this. I mean, I don't know how many times, but I know I've been guilty of the payoff of serving others, getting a payoff. And I guess what I mean by that is if you're serving somebody, there's this human inclination to go, if I give you something, what do you give me back? You say, thank you.
Right.
Thanks for being this great person that gave me this.
Right.
And so we get this little serotonin, a little dopamine, a little ego boost, and all that good stuff. And we're like, oh, and to get warm and fuzzy and going, I'm special, I'm good, I did good, they said thank you. That's not always the case when you serve people. Sometimes you get, and I watched that even today. I saw, being behind the camera, sometimes you're seeing things through a lens, and so you get zoned in. And I mean, I saw a few of those interactions where maybe even some people were apathetic, some people were very grateful, and some people were not even nice.
Right.
And the people that were volunteering navigated that stuff like they had a star chart. They knew what to do. Like they did it. I was telling one of the girls, I don't know her name, but I said, you handled that with like, the word is grace. I mean, absolute grace.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They really are.
And still have a desire to come back and do it again.
That's what's crazy.
Right? Yeah.
They keep showing up. I don't know why. So, it's a blessing.
Have y'all been recognized by anybody in the community for what you do? I mean, not just like I'm trying to recognize you, but not like in just this capacity, but like, from anybody with any kind of clout, I guess is the way to say it, or they like call it out and say, hey, you're serving this community and this.
Yes, I mean, I think our mayor has done that.
Yeah.
He's done it, at city council meetings and I think KPLC did it.
Yeah.
Hometown Hero or something like that. They brought the light. They shed a lot of light on it, and but that's not why we do it. So that's my least favorite part.
Yeah.
I
think you've said that even when we first started talking.
Right.
Like this isn't your cup of tea to like.
It's not. I'm not. I'm just me. I don't.
Yeah, you're not doing this to get an award.
Nope.
The reward is just doing it.
That's right.
Yeah. I don't think you could ever stop.
I don't think I could.
I think you're on just seeing this today and just talking to you can tell it's an integral change. Like you said.
And I mean, it's my life is devoted to this. Like, I'm divorced, been divorced for a long. I mean, I absolutely have no time. I mean, me and Lisa work 12 hours, almost 7 days a week. It's time consuming.
This?
Yes, doing this.
This is full time.
This is full time.
Okay.
I mean, not paying full time.
Right. Full time volunteer service.
Right. But it just takes that long and that many hours to really make a change. I mean, I say this all the time. We don't feed them because they're hungry. I mean, we don't feed them because they deserve it. We feed them because they're hungry. But then when we go past that and we are working on that ID, or they're in the hospital, or we have a death, or, I mean, all kind of things. The tent flooded, Saturday morning. Now we got to go put new tents out because we're the ones that have them. It takes a lot of time. And when I rarely say no. I mean, sometimes I have to just because I'm exhausted, but this is my life. This is what I'm choosing to do, and there's no going back. I mean, it wouldn't matter if you talk bad about me today. Tomorrow I'm still going to wake up and serve the same people.
That has no bearing on what you're doing.
No bearing at all. Whether you think it's right or wrong, this is what God has called us to do. This is what we're going to do. So, we just persistency, consistency has made a huge difference in this ministry. And the homeless know that, the people we serve know that, and they know they can count on us. And that's, what we're going to just keep showing up and doing it.
That's an interesting subject. And I mean, I don't want to spend too much time there because it can end up probably sounding negative, but have you encountered any blowback before, like entities or even just a message of, hey, you guys are just...
Yes.
Really?
And it hurts.
Over the years, that's been... Yeah.
And it hurts. And it hurts when it comes from other Christians.
Does that happen?
Oh, yes, it happens.
Really? Really? Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised in today's climate.
Right.
But I guess I still am. So that always surprises me.
Right. I mean, They don't feel like we're doing more handouts and hand-ups.
What is that? Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
Just or enabling or not really fixing the issue, or we let them come here and they're smoking cigarettes and we're still letting them come here.
Right.
Whatever. It's just, those things do hurt. And, I mean, I think in the beginning it was a lot worse. I think a lot of other churches that help us, especially other churches, have seen that we're not stopping and can either jump on or whatever. And a lot of them have chosen to jump on, which was cool. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Because I think it takes us all.
For sure.
And, but yes, we definitely have had some issues.
Yeah, I just wondered, and I wondered if it was getting better or worse. Honestly, because in some ways, compared to, 4 or 5 years ago, I think there's definitely a sentiment against helping people. It's almost like a polarization. I see, like, people who are really fired up about it, and I see some people who are really fired up about telling you shouldn't serve people.
And it's definitely... I have so much support, and I'm so grateful, but there's definitely groups out there that take every chance they can get to let me know that they don't think we're doing right.
Wow.
And very condemning, or, they'll see a homeless drunk or high or somewhere and video it and post it, making fun of them, saying, this is what you're spending your donations on, and there's so much to every single story, and every single story is different. So it's not what you might see on the outside. If you didn't stop and look and hear the rest of the story, you might think differently. But I got tired of trying to put out fires, so it's just like I just have to learn to let that go. And,
just shoot that away and go, hey, it doesn't change my mission.
That's right. It doesn't change me.
Yeah, that cruelty. There's something strange about human cruelty. I've never really understood it to that. Maybe when I was a child, I know I did. I'm not going to lie. I know I've probably done cruel things and made jokes and joined the crowd. I know I did. And I'm ashamed of it, but I hope I learned, and got better and didn't do that and stopped doing that.
Right.
But I am fascinated by it. What is that inside of us that makes us want to chuckle at another person's misery? Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know, but
we had one of our homeless, she was on synthetic, Mojo, whatever, and it makes her act crazy and zombie-like, and she's doing their video in it, and they put it all over Facebook and went viral, and she tried to kill herself over it. And
what's the real evil there, right?
What was the evil? Thank God we found her and got her some help, but she was so embarrassed and ashamed of what the whole world had just witnessed her do.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people think that's okay.
No, people shame people for it's a weapon, for whatever reason to I don't know why we would do that. I don't know, but it is common, and there's it's a hard-heartedness. I'd love to see that end.
Me too. Me too.
But unfortunately, sometimes the thing. For you, it was you see this person who asks you to hug them, and your heart softened, right? So that changes things. But for others, and sometimes for ourselves, and for me, sometimes I have to go through something to soften it.
Right.
Some kind of boiling, tenderizing, and it's not always painless,
And if you can look at that other person and think that's someone.
Yeah.
It's like they belong. That's somebody's daughter or mother or brother, dad.
Yeah.
That's someone.
It's interesting that you say that. I was thinking that today. Today I was filming. I wasn't assisting, I was mostly just observing. And there was a mother that had some little kids with her, and I was filming, and these little kids, they were smiling at me. I'd smile back, and then the more I would smile, they'd smile. And it was like a little game we were playing, and it was sweet. And I thought to myself that even that sometimes, just putting on a kind face is sometimes a big blessing.
It really is.
And it's hard sometimes to do, to not walk around in I got things to do mode and wear just like a statue face.
Right.
But to actually force yourself to put on a mask of kindness, because sometimes, I mean, unfortunately, some people, that could be it. That could be the face they interact with, and that's it that day.
That's it. That's right.
You know,
that's right.
Do you want it to be a face of stone?
Right. So you gotta show the love. You gotta smile.
So many ways that we can do things for people. Y'all are doing so much. I don't know. It's just been such an, honestly, I feel kind of honored, and and today your wheels start spinning when you're observing. You're going, what else can I do? What can I do? What can I do? How can I help? You know, I just would say that I'm assuming volunteers are always
needed.
Always needed. Yeah.
And especially as, you know, the new pantry building and those things, and with winter's right around the corner.
Right around the corner, yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Which will be sheltering again for winter.
Do y'all provide a different foods in the winter?
Yeah, different people just cook. We don't have a kitchen, so we just have roasters and crock pots and stuff. So different people just cook hot meals, big things of chili, or
I got you.
You know, jambalaya, and we feed. It's a lot. Those 3 meals a day, it's like, it's so cute though when you see somebody who's used to not, I mean, they're lucky if they get 1 meal a day, being offered 3 meals a day. I mean, they ate so much till they threw up.
I believe it. I mean, I had a guest recently who had kind of went through a food poverty when they were younger, and, you know, I'm not really spilling anything that's not going to be, that they didn't say, but, you know, having food poverty can create like an eating disorder in a person, and when they finally do have access to food, there's a fear that it's going to be taken away. Yeah, be taken away, and it creates a cycle of eating that's unhealthy for that person, and it sticks around for their whole life. And I'm sure y'all are experiencing some of that, you know. You said something a minute ago about, you know, seeing people that's someone's mother, sister, somebody that loved them. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie or read the book Into the Wild.
No.
Well, I'd read it back in the 90s, and it's the story about a young man who basically chooses to be homeless. You know, he leaves society, burns his...
Oh, wow.
You know, he left. He just took off, and his family didn't know where he was at. And it's a tragic story. You know, ultimately, he passes away. But after he passes away, you know, this reporter put together all the pieces where he'd been, and ended up he had all these relationships, like all across the country as he had traveled around. But he was homeless.
Right.
You know, I mean, he looked homeless. He lived on the street. You know, he was at the mercy of other people's kindness. And his mother said something that just never left me. She said, every time I see somebody, a young man with a backpack, a young man that's homeless, I stop and ask him if I can help him. She said, because I see my son. And I think about all those people, all those years on his whole journey that helped him, that showed him a kindness, you know, and I just think of them as my child,
so
my Chris, cool. You know. And it's sticky, you know.
It is.
So sticky. You can't get that kind of thing out of your head.
You can't. I got to talk to Mr. Bobby's son last night, and that was Mr. Bobby's, our homeless that...
You said he passed away.
He passed away. We found him in the woods dead last Thursday. And he's been here for about 14 years, and we've had him since the very beginning, and just amazing. I mean, like, we loved him. He was a kind soul. And I knew he had a son, but it was too painful for him to talk about. So we never got too far into that. But I got to speak to him last night because the coroner's office found him, and he said, thank you. Thank you for loving my dad. I haven't spoken with him in 10 years, and he said, I just went to your Facebook page and I saw tons of pictures of my dad smiling. And he said, I wanted to thank you for that. He was happy.
He had a family.
Loved.
He was loved by you guys. Yeah, that's hard. You know, man, I have a regret at first, and it's that story just really hits me. It's funny this time of year too. You know, several years ago, my father passed away, and we had stopped being close for a long time, but he had been sick, and you know, the truth of the matter is, I carry around a lot of shame about it because I couldn't get over myself.
Right.
You know, even when he was sick, to spend time with him,
That's what he said last night.
I was angry. Yeah, I was angry, and almost angry at him for being sick. It's so ridiculous, and in hindsight, how just stupid that sounds. But resentment can, and trauma, things like that, sometimes even love just has a hard time getting you right. And I remember when my dad was in the hospital, how, and my sister she called me and said, hey, you need to come to the hospital. Today, I promise you, if I got that phone call, there would be smoke beneath my feet. I wouldn't ask. I would just go. And when my sister called me, I sat down at the kitchen table and didn't fly away, and I just was stunned. It was like all the years of so many different things and old resentments, and kept me sitting at that table for another 30 minutes before I left. And you know, that changed me. That's the painful tenderizing I'm talking about, right? Because, and that story you just told, I mean, it completely shifted me because I didn't have much time left with him. And then honestly, I would never get to hear his voice again because he couldn't talk. You know, I got to look in his eyes, but I didn't get to ever hear the word. And if I had not been so damn hard-hearted and resentful.
That's what he said last night.
You know, I could have had a moment, a kindness, learned some things that I heard some things, have some memories that that's selfish, I guess, but it won't ever happen again.
No.
You know.
You're making me cry.
Well, we learn. I mean, we're supposed to learn, right? I mean, I can tell that story just like he told you all that. And, you know, what's the point in telling it just so I can be sad?
Right.
No, absolutely. I just don't believe in that anymore. That there's an energy in that. I mean, I truly believe there's some kind of holy, spiritual, transformative fire.
Absolutely.
That burns away that nasty shell that we form, this callous thing that can become our heart. I mean, it can become it.
Right. I really can.
And I just don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that skin anymore. I don't want that callus anymore. I want a new heart. Don't want that. I'd rather just be done with that.
Right.
There's no value in being hard-hearted.
No.
There's no value in being cruel to other people.
None.
And I just see that here with what y'all are doing. I just see... Honestly, the other thing I saw today, and I know that wipe away the tears, let's dry them with some happiness. I saw a lot of joy today.
Yes.
I mean, a ton of joy. So many of the volunteers are just joyful and happy.
And we pick on them. They joke with
Yeah,
us.
y'all had a good time. You got some powerful figures working with you guys in this place. I mean, powerful prayer leaders with real heartfelt and robust, authentic, just prayer.
Yes.
That was awesome. I was like, wow, look at this.
Was that Josh Quaid?
Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, look at this. And the people outside, y'all were all connected so heartily, and then outside even, I look around when people pray, and I've always done this since I was a kid, except when I pray alone. But I peek around and go, who wants to do this and who doesn't?
Right.
Who's in it, who's not? I mean, just because. I don't know why I do it, but I do. And I did today. Well, today I was filming, so I had an excuse. And when I was filming, I was like, look at this. Everybody's tuned into this. Everybody's got their antenna up.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. How awesome is that?
Yeah, it kind of blows my mind.
Wow. What a great experience.
So amazing. So amazing.
So much more to go, too. I can only imagine where y'all are headed and where what it'll continue to evolve into.
Super excited. We've got some big things coming, hopefully, that'll be coming out soon, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I wish they were here so you could talk about them, but you can't.
I can't. But soon.
Yeah, once they, I try really hard to support the people that have been on this podcast and get their information out. So once that hits,
yes,
we'll have to get that out there for sure. Some really awesome things are in the corner. I just feel honestly really blessed to have been here today.
Thank you for coming.
I texted my wife a few times and said, man, this is a real thing.
Unless you see it, I don't think people understand how it happens. But you come back anytime.
Oh, I think I'm going to. I don't want to make commitments for other people, but I have some things I want to talk to my staff about when I get back. Are there ways that people who maybe can't come volunteer, but do have a feel like they want to give a monetary gift or a food gift? What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, my number. I'm in and out all week. I'm here every day. Just holler at me. I'll make sure we're here. It can be dropped off at the church, or we are out on the roads. We can pick up.
Okay. So y'all don't have like drop-off times or anything like that? Not. Okay. I wasn't
sure. We would
sure.
never make it if that happened. We're so not a rigid church. We don't have schedules. I mean, it's just whatever happens, we make it happen. And it's just the way it is. So
that's beautiful.
And I'm happy. I know it.
This episode's Fishing for Goodies Fishbowl sponsor is Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center in Sulphur, Louisiana. I don't know what you look for when you travel, but one of the things I look for when I'm putting together my itinerary is a unique museum or gallery in the city I'm traveling to. I do this almost every time I go to a new city, but if I'm being honest, I'm guilty of not always doing that very thing right here at home in Sulphur, Louisiana. That's really a shame, because we have one of the most interesting, historically relevant, and culturally rich corners in any city in the country about 2 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. I'm talking about the Brimstone Museum and Henning Cultural Center. Have you ever really thought about why our city is named Sulphur? They've got a permanent exhibit on the history of the sulfur industry that answers that simple question and more. You really get a full scope of just how important the sulfur mining industry was to the development of Southwest Louisiana and the impact it had on the rest of the world. Yes, the rest of the world. On the same property, right next door to the museum, is the Henning Cultural Center, presenting some of the most interesting, modern, and culturally relevant local art shows I've ever seen. My dear friend Tom Trahan and the Brimstone Historical Society have really worked hard to give us this treasure, and it's a multifaceted jewel that I plan to take advantage of more often. You don't have to wonder what their hours are, or how to get there, or what shows are coming up. Just go to brimstonemuseum.org like I did, and subscribe to their mailing list right there on the homepage. That's brimstonemuseum.org. Tom will make sure you start getting the announcements for each and every new show at the gallery. But you don't have to wait for the mail to arrive to enjoy this historical local treasure. You don't have to be guilty, like me, of overlooking a local wonder that conveniently sits next to the Grove, one of the most beautiful walking parks in Southwest Louisiana. Drop in and say hi to Tom for me. Tour the museum and center, and make sure to tell Tom that you heard about Brimstone Museum on Find the Good News. Now, let's take that dive in the fishbowl. You know about the fishbowl.
What's a fishbowl?
You've listened to the show,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So every guest that's come in, I ask a lot of questions, and go all over the place, but this is where I give up everything to the fishbowl. So every guest gets to draw 3 things out of here. And some of them are questions, and some of them are thought experiments. Some of them are what would you rathers. Some are funny, some are serious. And we'll just
Make
see
it
where
the
it
funny
goes.
ones. So one at a time?
One at a time, yeah. Oh, this is from somebody that was on the show.
Uh-oh. Can't read it.
Tiny print. Some guests and listeners have submitted questions.
Where or how do you find serenity?
Oh, wow.
Yikes.
I actually want to know this.
Honestly, on the streets. With
Really?
Homeless people.
That's where you feel it.
And when I am home, feeling down, not feeling like helping anybody, I know that's when I have to get up and hit the streets. And that's where I find my peace.
Wow. You know, I've heard this from other people on the show. I had a guest say something so similar.
Really?
Yeah, but she said she's lonely, like perpetually lonely. But she prays for God to use her loneliness in service to other people. So that's when she knows it's time for her to go check on
about the
people.
right thing for me. I don't go out, or I just don't.
It brings you peace.
Right,
The
it just
service.
brings me, the service brings me peace, yes.
That's incredible. It really is, because there's so many people that have different answers to this question.
What's your answer to that?
What brings me serenity? Oh boy. I can tell you when I feel the most serene is when I am contemplating, honestly, creation. I think just the feeling of serenity when I have a moment to really think about the why we're here. What are we here for? I think about that all the time. And my daughter says that gives her an existential crisis.
That probably does me too.
But I do. I think about that, and when I let myself think about it, that's when I can get connected to people, because I stop being myself for a little bit. You know, I mean, I can get outside of my own garbage, drama.
Right.
You know, and I can see a connection to that, and like what you're saying, because it's when I start to look at other people almost as I can get in that place where I see them as myself.
Uh-huh.
Like I stop just being trapped in my own mess.
Right. That's so good. Stop being trapped in my own mess.
Yeah, and get into there, not so I can forget,
Right.
but just so I can see the commonality between us, I guess. You know, the same source,
Right.
the same blood, we arose from the same thing.
Right. Let's see. Where did I put these? If someone has hurt you in the past, write a forgiving letter to them. Yuck.
You don't have to write a letter, but you know.
Do I have to?
You don't have to.
No, I do have to. I needed that.
Really?
Yes, I needed it. That's a good one for today. Yeah. I don't even... That's strange.
Pain is hard, though.
That is hard. And
when somebody hurts you, it's hard.
And we were just talking about that today.
Well, you know what? This is my hardest thing. I tell people this all the time. And I don't know if I have a letter for the person.
Right.
The letter is mostly for myself, for me. I hope someday I won't carry around this resentment towards you. That's literally as short as I can make it. I hope someday I don't feel it, because it is in the way of me getting on with some things in my life. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I can't let go of some pain.
Or when I lay down at night, you think about it.
The ghosts start bouncing around.
It's just, ugh.
Yeah, and a lot of mine, I mean, I don't know what yours is. I wouldn't pretend. We all have lots of things, but there's several things like that where I harbor, and that word, harbor, I provide the port. I give it harbor. I allow that boat to dock there with all this stuff I have, and I could just let it go, but I don't know why I want to keep it. For some weird reason, I say want. But do you ever feel like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think the hardest part for me is like when I'm criticized about the ministry.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about constructive criticism. That's a lot of things we do has been based off that.
Yeah.
I'm talking about when somebody criticizes what you're doing, like you're only giving a handout, you're not really making a difference.
Yeah.
You know, those types, those are the hardest ones for me to forgive, because it's like I pour so much into this. Why don't you see the good we're doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I can relate to that. I can, with my son, because and it gets all intermingled in my faith too, because like there are people that will say, because my son's gay, and they say things like, well, you got to do more than love him. The way you love him is correcting him. And I go, wait a second, hold on. So you want your mission, their mission is love looks like re-education. You know, you don't really love them if you're not pointing out that this lifestyle, as you know,
right.
I like to say. And I go, wait, hang on a second. So for me, it's just he's just my son, and I love him.
Right.
That's my mission. Well, you're just enabling a lifestyle that's going to bring him grief, and it sounds a lot like what you're talking about, absolutely. Right? In the same way, it's like, no, you need to teach those people how to stand on their own 2 feet and get right and get fixed and X, Y, Z. Right. You're just providing a meal and loving them. That's only enabling them. I can hear those voices because it sounds so much.
It is so much
like that. You know,
I think that's, and I will harp on that. I bring it up tonight when I lay down. I'm gonna think about it. You know, I don't know, and that's the part I want to learn to let go of.
Yeah. Sounds like you almost have to at the same time, though, because you said earlier that, you know, you can't let that doesn't change your mission.
It's not going to stop me.
So all that stuff that naysaying ain't going to stop me.
It's not going to stop me.
Yeah. The only thing for me, it's the same thing. Like the only thing it's done is I've had to learn, I say learn. In many times I used to keep my mouth shut about it. I go, well, you know, they can say that, I'll just walk away and I'll move on and keep moving on that mission. I thought that was enough, but what I've learned is those voices of dissent have gotten louder. And so I felt like I do have to be more vocal, but peacefully so, like in a loving way, and go, hey, you think you're correcting me. I actually do need to take a minute and correct you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I used to would have went, okay, they think they're correcting me. We'll just shake our dust off our sandals and walk away. But I think I'm shifting into a more robust mode.
I like that.
You know, where I'm like, hey, hang on. I appreciate that you think you're helping me, but let me help you. And now it's up to you to accept what I'm...
That's an awesome way to look at it.
That's hard, though. You know, it's hard because everybody wants to adjust the lover constantly. Right. I mean, we see it. I see it all the time. It's like, let me sit you down, explain to you in detail why you helping other people is bad for country, city, community, the person. You know, they spend tons of energy telling you why you shouldn't do the thing and help somebody. And I don't know, I sound real nasty as my tone shifts, but that's kind of how
that's the truth.
It's like, that's a lot of energy you're putting into thinking of how to not do this.
And my response is, okay, thank you. And then afterwards.
I know. And social media probably doesn't help, because I feel that sometimes I'm like, I just want to put it out there. Right. And then I write it, and then I go, well, how can I reword this? For me, what I've tried to learn to do, which I'm a big believer in shifting the way we use social media, is what I've been doing as an experiment is I've been writing myself a lesson. Like, how can I reword this for me as a piece of advice for me about that situation instead of for the person?
That's good.
Then when I get it to where I can take it as my own advice, then I post it as that, right?
Oh, cool.
And I go, oh, well, it could be it sounds like it's for somebody else, but it was really, in fact, I think people might think, what's he doing? Like, why does he post that stuff? And I go, actually, that stuff's for me.
For you.
It's for me. but it sounds like it. Maybe it's for somebody else.
That's cool.
It's, I don't know, all kinds of
So
ways to
cool.
twist up.
Right.
I get it though. So we didn't write a love letter,
No,
but I get it.
you get it.
Yeah, I do get it. Yeah. You got another
Got
question?
one more?
That was a good one though. That's good.
I like the little pieces of paper.
I do too.
Let's see. What is the nicest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Oh, wow.
That sounds like it could be a nice, relevant question.
Stranger?
What about anybody? You have something that stands out?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had there's been lots of big things. I mean, people have been so kind and generous to me, but Chris Carroll, who owns Bayou Beds in Lake Charles,
Yeah.
helped us with our air mattresses.
Really?
He stored them for our winter shelter, and when he goes and picks up a mattress, he takes the old mattress if it's in good shape, and he keeps them for our homeless or people that were moving into housing. And it's just an amazing man, and he's real big on sleeping peacefully at night. And he said, you never stop, you're always going, and I could see you limping, and he said,
Yeah.
I want you to have a nice bed.
Really?
And they bought me a brand new bed.
Wow.
Yes, I mean,
How nice is that?
that's amazing. Like, nobody's ever done anything like that for me.
He just noticed,
Right.
and he sees you serving, and man.
Yeah, and then I've
That's-
had, like, Sippy Edwards bought me a massage and my nails done, and, just a lot of nice. People see the stressful, the busyness of this work and want to treat us, and it's a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, it isn't glamorous work.
It isn't.
It's easy to just sit back and think somebody's taking care of this.
Right.
That's really what I'd do it. I'm not going to lie. I'm guilty of it. Going, well, surely somebody's doing something.
Right.
That somebody happens to be you and these volunteers.
That's right. So cool.
That's awesome that people have recognized that, and Chris for doing that. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
This has been a really good experience. I'm so glad I finally got to sit and talk to you.
Thank you so much for coming.
I can't wait to share this with people. I mean, there may be a lot of people who know what you guys do and what it looks like, but I don't know. I hope the people that don't know I hope it opens their eyes.
Right.
It was very active and it was very fast paced, and you guys really, really did a lot in a short amount of time today.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
There is one last part to the show. It's something new. You're only the second guest to do that, and this is the Unbox Your Better Self box.
Okay.
So this basically is not really a challenge so much for you or directly. If you want it to be, it can, but this is really for me and the listeners. So what these are challenge prompts, things that they can do to maybe just try something new in their life and enhance their life overall.
Pick any card.
Any
or
card you want, yeah. And this is just really for all of us out there to try something new.
Have a curious conversation with someone you disagree with.
Ooh. That,
I like
I'll
that.
take that challenge.
Okay.
I will. I have to find somebody I disagree with, which probably wouldn't be too hard.
No.
I could find that very easily, actually. Because it's funny, I have people in my life, that's an interesting conversation point. I have people in my life that gosh, how do I even say this? I would be careful. Because I don't want to offend anybody and hurt their feelings, because it may sound really mean what I'm about to say. But they're okay, and especially in Christianity as a Christian. There are Christian people that I agree with, and we can have conversations, and it feels like we're on the same page. But there are certain areas when we get into them, it's like, whoa, we just stepped in a hole. Because on these issues, we are worlds apart. And I always wonder, and I'm always fascinated too by how can we agree about all this stuff and like take the train all the way, and we get to this stop right here and our train split on these issues that aren't, there's huge differences, and it makes it harder to have the relationship and all the other things that you agree on, because when you get to that, you go, well, this is a critical thing.
It really is.
It's critical.
I so get that.
So yeah, maybe those are the types of conversations where I would love to have them, as long as I could get into that conversation and both of us accept that we may not leave it convinced.
Right.
And we can still love each other and work together.
Yeah.
If I could have those rules,
right?
That was conversation.
Like, sign it here.
yeah. I don't know. That'd be interesting. I'll take that challenge. I'll start thinking about that. I think that would be worth it. So that's for the listeners too, to try to, how can we find calming? How can I have that conversation?
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been wonderful.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Now it's time to go feed the homeless.
That's right. That's what's next.
And I love you just as well.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Find the Good News. If you would like to advertise on this show or sponsor an episode, just visit findthegood.news. Send me a message and we'll see about getting your business, organization, service, product, or event on the show. I deeply thank each of you again for supporting this podcast.